the biggest thing was sacrifice. It took a lot of sacrifice. I know a lot of friends, you know, I hang out. I love to travel. That's my biggest thing. And I had to kind of fall off for a little while, you know, out of sight, just doing my thing, committing to it, making sure I put in an hour. So a lot of bridges were burned. A lot of friendships were lost because people didn't understand why I wasn't out on the scene. I wasn't doing things with them anymore, like, or I wasn't hanging. But it was that time where I felt like, okay, I had a friend in Atlanta who had started this multi-million-dollar business that I had no idea about. And I went to Atlanta one weekend. This was a couple of months before I decided I'm going to do this full time. I hit her up. I said, hey, Bianca, like, let's hang out. That's like our thing we do when I go to Atlanta. She was like, hey, Red. All my friends call me Red for the most part. She was like, hey, Red, like, I just started this business. I'm serious about it. Like, I can't hang out. I can't party. She was like, now, I will come by the club. You can come outside. We can chat, catch up, or we can go to lunch tomorrow. And I was like, oh. I said, but I respect that. Yeah. I said, okay. And so then we go out to lunch the next day. She's telling me about this business, how it just blew up out of nowhere. But she said it took a lot of sacrifices. She said, you know, I had to remove myself from the scene. I had to remove a lot of people out of my life. And when I did that, my business started to grow.
Hey you, welcome to Shades of Content, a show that teaches entrepreneurs how to effectively use content to market their business and stay content while doing it. I'm your host, Patrice, a wife, a mom of 3, and a 15-year public relations and marketing professional who decided to open a brick and mortar content studio 4 years ago. And I honestly haven't looked back since. Join me as I share my experiences and the experiences of other entrepreneurs who, like me, are navigating this maze of owning a business, running a family, and trying to stay sane and healthy while doing it. I'll tell you, it's an amazingly challenging journey, but I honestly wouldn't have it any other way. See you soon. Hey, what up, what up, what up? Happy Friday. Welcome back to Shades of Content. This is the show that teaches Black millennial mompreneurs content marketing tips, but also how to stay content. What does content mean, right? Content is peaceful satisfaction. I do believe that through the ups and downs of our lives, we can still be at peace. We can still be satisfied with the lives that we're living. And this show hopefully gives you tips on how to do that. But also, like I said earlier, gives you tips on how to market your business, because typically you are doing it all on your own. Yeah, so, you know, that's why I created this show. I'm Patrice. I have 3 kids. I've been married for 15 years. I own this beautiful space that we're in right now. I've owned it for 5 years. I've hosted this show for 3 years. I also work a full-time job. It'd be a lot. Misha was like, all right. But this show is, I'm so passionate about it. And, I'm just happy to be here. We have full episodes on Fridays, short episodes on Wednesdays, and we have a guest today. Yes. We have a guest. Before I introduce you to this beautiful person next to me, I do want to remind you that if you need a virtual assistant, if you've been listening to the hacks, if you've been following me on social media, if you've been listening to this show, I've been kind of going heavy and going hard on the virtual assistant piece. And I posted something, you guys know this, we talked about this before. So many people were asking me, well, how do I find a virtual assistant? I need somebody that can do the work, but had no idea how to make it happen. So I created the How to Find a Virtual Assistant e-guide. It's a quick 2-page. The first part of the read literally gives you the steps from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 on how to find the perfect virtual assistant for you. But then the second half of the guide is literally 20 plus virtual assistant companies. All you got to do is open the book, link to it, and you are on your way to living a more content life, because virtual assistants take all those mundane tasks that are keeping you from making money and keeping you from doing the things that you're passionate about. Virtual assistants take all that off your plate, right? And that's what we need to be doing. Like, we mompreneurs, especially entrepreneurs, we're getting in the weeds and doing all these little mundane things. I got to send this email. I got to schedule this. No, you should get a virtual assistant to do that. You should create the SOPs, right? And tell them what they need to do and let them execute. So again, you can be doing the things that bring you, that you're passionate about and that bring you income. So if you want that guide, if you know you need help finding a virtual assistant, tap the link in the show notes. I used to read reviews, but y'all don't be leaving reviews. we keep having this conversation and it's not happening, but it's okay. Because I know that you're taking in the content because the downloads are going up. So it's all good. If you do feel so inclined, leave a review, leave a rating. Tell me how you like the show. Tell me what you need. Tell me what you want to hear from. Tell me who you want to see on the show. I know people, but if you have ideas, I want to bring them to the show too. So now back to our beautiful guest, Meshia. Yes. This is Meshia Easley. She is an entrepreneur. Do you consider yourself a creative?
Somewhat so.
Okay.
To a certain extent.
Okay.
Depending on what it is.
Okay. So let me take a step back. Not just like one business entrepreneur. You have two businesses. Two. I feel like you're always kind of thinking about other things to do. Yeah. So give you a quick history of our relationship. Fill me in if I miss some stuff. Cause, I be forgetting. Meshia and I are both business owners in like our businesses used to be legit kind of around the corner from one another, a block and a half from each other. We're sorority sisters. Shout out to Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Right. We have a lot of mutual friends.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. We're both Sagittarius.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a different show. A whole different show.
And I can't say I remember how we first connected. I don't remember.
I don't either. I feel like, so I moved to Hyattsville. I opened my location about 3 months after you did.
Okay.
In 2018. Okay. So I signed the lease in March.
Okay.
I opened in June.
Yep.
And I feel like between me, you, and Unique all being within a 2-block radius, literally, someone had mentioned you. And they were like, she's your soror, like this and that. And I started following you and I'm like, yeah, she's a Sag and this and that. But I don't remember our first encounter.
I don't either.
I think it may have been Jordan's birthday. Natolia's daughter,
probably.
Maybe. I think you came
I did.
to her paint party.
Yep,
I feel like that's the first time I met you.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. Okay, so hey Natalia, that's my boo. And hey JoJo. So so we've been connected. I think when this is a very close knit city community, so the business owners, we know each other, we talk to one another, but obviously we have a deeper relationship. Like I feel like you my sis, you know what I'm saying? So and we've helped each other. We've been in both binds and had to be like, yo, what's up? Can you help me?
Oh yes, that's a difference.
So let's tell the audience, who you are. Tell us about your businesses. Okay. Yeah, give us a little background.
Of course. So my name is Meshia Easley. I've been in the DMV area since 2015. I moved here from Chicago. When I moved here, I was an educator, a lot like you, which I don't think I knew that until the other night.
I did when I came
to the panel.
Kids wore me down.
They wore me down. So when I moved here, I was on a mission.
Okay.
I said, all right, you have 3 years to get it together to figure out what's your next move, because the school system wasn't for me. No issues in Chicago. I love the charter world side of it. But from the charter school in Chicago to DCPS, it was a huge adjustment that I couldn't get with it. Yeah. So I had already been screen printing for about 2 or 3 years. Okay. But I wanted to expand. Gotcha. And I had a couple of friends who are charter school principals here who said, hey, once you get it together, you can do our school uniforms. I was like, oh, cool.
Right.
So picked up randomly 3 schools out of nowhere. I'm going on during my planning period to my new location that I had in Beltsville. I was there for about 6 months. Okay. Trying to print 1,000 uniforms in a week on my lunch break, like after school into midnight, going to work the next day, no papers graded, nothing. Just there.
I'm telling you.
So year 3, I knew what it was. I said, I'm gonna take the leap. I'm just gonna do it. No regrets.
So I'm sure there's a ton of people who are watching this or listening to this who are probably in the same position you were in, know that they need to do something, but don't know the steps. So for you, what did taking that leap look like? What were the steps that you took to go from working as a teacher to fully going into your business?
The biggest thing was sacrifice. It took a lot of sacrifice. I know a lot of friends, I hang out. I love to travel. That's my biggest thing. And I had to kind of fall off for a little while, out of sight, just doing my thing, committing to it, making sure I put in the hours. So a lot of bridges were burned. A lot of friendships were lost because people didn't understand why I wasn't out on the scene. I wasn't doing things with them anymore, like why I wasn't hanging. But it was that time where I felt like, okay, I had a friend in Atlanta who had started this multi-million-dollar business that I had no idea about. And I went to Atlanta one weekend. This was a couple of months before I decided I'm going to do this full time. I hit her up. I said, hey, Bianca, like, let's hang out. That's like our thing we do when I go to Atlanta. She was like, hey, Red. All my friends call me Red for the most part. She was like, hey, Red, like, I just started this business. I'm serious about it. Like, I can't hang out. I can't party. She was like, now, I will come by the club. You can come outside. We can chat, catch up, or we can go to lunch tomorrow. And I was like, oh. I said, but I respect that. Yeah. I said, okay. And so then we go out to lunch the next day. She's telling me about this business, how it just blew up out of nowhere. But she said it took a lot of sacrifices. She said, you know, I had to remove myself from the scene. I had to remove a lot of people out of my life. And when I did that, my business started to grow. So I thought about that when I said, okay, I have literally 8 months to get it together. School starts in August. I need to sign a lease in the next 7 to 8 months. I just disconnected myself from everyone, you know, and that was the first step. Right. It was doing that, just understanding that I won't be on the scene. I won't be able to do the things I've been able to do, but, you know, looking back now, I don't regret it at all. And those same people that felt that way are pretty much no longer in my life.
Yeah, people gonna remove themselves whether you ask them to be removed. It's just kind of the natural flow of things, and I think, you know, that's important, right? So with anything, you got to give up something to get something, because you only have a finite amount of space, time, resources. And so when we're thinking about moving into new spaces, whatever that is, a business or, you know, a new relationship, something has to go. Yeah, and I think in the moment it seems like a negative thing, and it's like, oh well, but that's just, again, the progression of life. Yes. Things have to fall off for other things to grow. Yeah.
New season.
Yeah, new season. So that's the screen printing business. And when did that open? Or
early 2017, late 2017. I got like a 500 square foot little spot in Beltsville, and I outgrew that within 3 or 4 months. I just too many boxes and a 500 square foot space. Like it was a lot.
How did you get on the screen printing? Like, what happened? You were like, oh, I'm a screen print.
Like, so what's funny is, and I was a health and PE teacher for a while, for 7 years. I was an athletic director in Chicago at the school I was at. Okay. I was athletic director, and I was doing all of the graphic designs for all of the sports teams.
I got you.
And I'm not getting paid. And this takes time, you know? And I'm like, I'm not getting paid to do this. I went to school for advertising. I'm a communications major.
I see.
You know, and I went to school for advertising. My minor was art. And so I was like, okay, so let me find a screen print in the area to do all of our stuff. And I mean, I'm paying them thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And it's like mediocre work. Yeah. Everything's cracking when they're wearing it, a couple washes. I said, all right, let me figure out how to do this myself. And you know, it's a charter school. You have a little leeway with being able to do some things. So I booked a trip to Indianapolis the next weekend and went to a screen printing workshop.
It's so many gems in this, y'all. Like, number one, just identifying the need. I think a lot of times people want to start businesses because they think it's cool or they think that it's what everybody needs to do. But if there's no problem to solve, you had a problem. Yeah. You needed quality shirts. You was doing all the work and paying everybody else to get it done. That's a problem. Yes. You solved it. And then once you made the decision to solve it, you very quickly sought after how to do it.
And enjoyed doing it. I enjoyed doing it as well. So
I love it.
Went to that conference, bought my first heat press machine.
How much was that?
I think it was about $1,800. Okay. A little under $2,000. I called my dad. You know, he's like, I'm tired. You know, you always want me to invest in something. I'm like, hey, it's going to be worth it in the long haul.
I'll make you a shirt, Dad.
Yeah, I'll make you a shirt or two. And I did. So I came back, used that heat press about 3 years. And then when I moved here, I bought my first screen printing machine.
Gotcha.
Yep. And so that's how it started.
Wow.
And then I fast forward, outgrew that space, moved over here, and it was about 1,300 square feet, which was pretty big, considering I only needed about 700, 800. Right. So I took that front room, and the original plan was to allow my clients to host their own pop-up events there, because I'm screen printing for a lot of local brands.
Okay.
People doing fundraisers, I do their stuff. Hey, you guys can use that front space.
Absolutely.
It's no biggie. I'm not going to charge you. You're my client. So use the front space. And that turned into, can I rent it out for this and for that? And I was like, Oh, yeah, sure, yeah, of course, and that's where Creative Saints came.
There we go. Okay, so
Saints.
How do you? Camp is a content studio. How do you define Creative Saints?
I define it as an artsy gallery studio space that's then.
Gotcha.
Then.
Right.
In that small 400 square foot space.
Right.
Now, it's just a multi-purpose, multi-flex like space where you're able to host certain events. I screen everyone before allowing them to kind of come into the space to see if it's a good vibe for the space, but it's just a vibe.
It is. We had our son's 16th birthday there. I've talked about that on the show before. And so you go from 500 square feet in Beltsville to 1,300 square feet in Hyattsville, around the corner, to 4,000. 4,000. So continuing to scale and level up, you pivoted because your plan was just to be for these screen printing clients. And then again, your audience said, "No, baby, we need to be doing events here." Natalia, like we mentioned earlier, did her birthday party for her daughter there. Yeah. So as you're transitioning from, you still have screen printing?
I do. So it's crazy how things work out. So I do a lot of self-development still. I'm not as good as you when it comes to documenting everything, but I went to New York a couple years ago. I wanted to transition into, I didn't know how to screen print, obviously. I knew the heat press, the design side of it. So I took a course on entry-level screen printing. Basically, this is with the squeegee, this is the plastisol ink, this is the whole deal. Yeah. And I met a guy there who was looking to open up a facility like in the Delaware area. He called me about 2 years ago. This was when I moved. Okay. He said, "Hey, this guy's closing down his shop and he wants to sell all his equipment." And I mean, an automatic machine is easily 6 figures. Wow. It's $100,000 for one. He had 4. He said, "I don't need 4 machines, but I'm looking for someone to partner with me on this location." And I'm like, well, I can't make this trip often, but when I do, I could do like an overnight, knock out all my orders in a day. Yeah. And to fast forward 2 years in, he has his own staff. So I pay part of the mortgage. His staff does a lot of my orders. Yeah. And I just go up there from time to time.
Outsourcing.
So still my business. I'm still there here and there. If it's like, for instance, these, I went up there to do my own shirt. It's something about me still doing my own stuff. But I go up there for some of my stuff. Because now I'm at 9. I have 9 schools that I screen print for. I'm at 9. I have 1 in Atlanta, 1 in Chicago, and 7 here.
What is the marketing? Are the schools that you're screen printing for, are they like from relationships? I know the DC ones are probably relationships, but how are you expanding out to different states?
Atlanta actually was one of the teachers at the school I was at in Chicago. Okay. She moved there and she's like head of school. Gotcha. And she was like, "Hey, you used to do everything there." So and then I still print for my old school in Chicago. Okay. And then everything here was just principals talking, asking, Rachel and Rebecca, because I was doing DC Scholars and Perry Street, just kind of asking them, who's doing your apparel? And then passing names along, and then other principals passing my information along.
I feel like you, and I could be wrong, I feel like your screen printing bag is like, you keep that low key. Like when I think of you, Meshia, at this point, we're thinking Creative Saints. Like you're there, Black and Blooming, which we'll talk about. But this screen printing piece, which is scalable, is that intentional? Is it just you've been doing it so you just keep doing it and it's growing? Is it because it's not as sexy? I don't know.
I think it's kind of like the other night when you're on a panel, right? When you get to that point where you feel like it's time. I'm not gonna say I'm completely there with it, but I don't think that I have the energy like to continue to market it to the extreme that I know I could. I got you. Because I'm happy where I'm at right now with my school. I start losing my mind a little bit around June, July, because that's when I'm getting all my orders for the upcoming school year. Right. But I enjoy kind of just being relaxed and chill throughout the school year to get me ready when it's time for the next school year. So I kind of do. I keep it low key. I post once every quarter.
It's so interesting though, when we say low key, now our minds go to social media, right? Because it's like, if I didn't see it in the feed, it don't exist. However, that's actually not the truth. Typically, there's a lot of people running huge multi-million-dollar businesses that do not make it to social media because for what? Yeah. Right? Outsource everything. Outsource everything. Let me tell you all the things that I outsource. I have my clothes picked up and washed and delivered and folded. I don't wash clothes on a consistent basis anymore because I have these 2 little humans who have lots of clothes that they get messy. So I use a company. We put all their dirty clothes in, and then they come. I schedule it on the app. They come and pick the clothes up. They drop it off the next day. I also outsource my cleaning. I have a cleaning lady. Now I'll clean up, like, we'll vacuum. We'll do the simple stuff every other day or so. But I have my cleaning lady come to our house once a month and clean the house top to bottom. Because that is just not something that I have time to do. Just like I don't have time to be sitting and folding clothes. Like, that ain't the best use of my time. Obviously, some things I like to just pick up myself. But for the most part, we're Instacarting it. So we're outsourcing things. This podcast that you're listening to, I have a team that comes in and does the physical recording and the audio. And then I have a VA in the Philippines. Shout out to Aileen. And she's been great. That's right, busy mompreneurs. Now is the time to outsource everything. And I have created the How to Find a Virtual Assistant e-guide that can literally take you from doing everything to doing none of the things. Tap the link in the show notes. Not only do I give you the tips to finding the perfect virtual assistant, but I also list 20 plus companies that are reputable, highly recommended, and you can access them immediately to get your virtual assistant found and hired. Tap the link in the show notes for your How to Find a Virtual Assistant guide. Can't wait to help you move through life with more contentment. All right, so I want to talk about Creative Saints.
Okay.
Again, very beautiful. The links in the show notes. A very beautiful, creative event studio, art gallery. I mean, it's really beautiful. And I remember when it was being built.
Oh, you saw it from the beginning.
From the beginning. Yes. It's you took me on it. So he was like, come pull up. And I was blown away.
Yeah.
Me owning this small in comparison, I'd be like, eye roll. So I want to talk a little bit about the lessons that you're learning in owning this much bigger brick and mortar, an event studio. Everybody want to own event spaces, bro. Yes. And they don't. Yo.
Listen, yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
So it's a big commitment. It's a huge commitment. It's always hard trying to find a good team.
Yeah.
To be that person to step in when you're not there. So I put in a lot of hours, especially on the weekend.
Right.
And, I'm working every weekend.
That's when the events happen.
That's when the events are. So it's like, I do enjoy meeting new people, them coming in, like listening to their ideas and working with them. But it's a commitment. It's you have to keep things up to date. Like, you got to come in, and I've learned to do so many things that I didn't think I would have to learn how to do owning that space. And so it's a different story when it comes to being in a space, in a facility, in a space that's not yours, that you don't own,
right?
And investing a lot in. And I have the amount of money we put into something that I don't own has been a struggle for me. And that's where I'm at right now with doing some renovations. I'm like, do I
do this?
Do I really put forth all the money and the effort into something that in 3 years
ain't gonna? It won't matter. Can't take the paint with you.
I can't take it. I can't take anything
can't
with me.
Can't take any of that stuff that you put in there
with
you. And that is we've had this conversation. Me and my husband have had this conversation a lot. And being in this space, we don't own it. Our landlords are amazing. So thankful for that.
Yes.
But when you start thinking about, it's cool. I have a space. I got a brick and mortar. Whoop-de-doo. Great. Thankful for it. And this isn't to say that, again, that we don't appreciate being able to be in these spaces, but there's been so many times where I've said, I'm not doing that. I don't own this. Like, I'm not investing that in that. The backyard, so many things be done back there, and I'm like, for what?
Yeah. And my situation, I loved my last landlord.
Yeah.
My new landlord, that's a whole different segment on just the things. You were there. Long story short, to put it away, I got shut down my first month.
Yep.
And I had events planned all weekend, and it was something that was out of my control.
Out of your control.
Something that he did on his part. And it was something that I had to deal with. So it's, when you think about, leasing people's spaces and want to start your own business, you have to be careful and kind of do your research on what you do. Because I know other people who own buildings from him. And if I would have just taken out that time to do my research, I probably wouldn't have been in the situation I was in for those 3 months of being shut down.
Yeah, and shut down means no money.
No money.
Right, but rent still got to get paid. Utilities started,
Yes.
So, it's...
Thank God I had my screen print business at that time. It was like that backup.
Multiple streams. And I've talked about this on the show with COVID. when COVID first kicked off, that first 3 months, people were not leaving their house. But thankfully, I had the PR consulting, which was able to pay the rent because the rent didn't stop. Like, I think my landlord was pretty flexible, like paying at the end of the month versus paying at the beginning of the month.
Mine was too.
But her mortgage still had to get paid, you know? Yeah. So, you know, we see these, the quick perfection snippets of got my keys, you know, all of that. Yeah. Ooh, the build out. Nobody's talking about how much it costs to build it out. No one's talking about, okay, the landlord is probably going to give you some TIA, tenant improvement allowance, but you have to pay that back. Like,
you have to pay it back. And they reap the benefit.
They reap the benefit.
At the end of the day. Yeah. When you leave, somebody else is coming in.
Yep. And they ain't have to do no work. Landlord ain't have to do no work.
My landlord even let me do the whole layout. He let me pick the flooring for the bath. I mean, he was smart about it. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I get to pick all of this? I'm like, you know what? That was smart. That was a genius
Very
move.
smart on his part.
Very smart. I give it to him.
Yeah. And you know, not to make this a race thing, but, you know, when we're looking at who owns the buildings, it ain't people that look like us. Nope. We're leasing the buildings. Yeah. And that's a whole nother conversation, you know, and it's the powers that be, and that's fine. But I think we do have to start thinking about, we got to own these buildings. What does that look like? And maybe it means 3 of us go in together to buy one building, right? You know, that's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole other conversation. Yeah. It's the discipline. And I have been very disciplined since I moved into that space. Yeah. And I promise you, at the end of these 5 years, there will be another Creative Saints Loft that I'm going to own.
There you go.
And so listen, it's a lot, again, back to the sacrifices, but it's really the discipline.
It is.
It's making sure that account might say 0 at the end of every month, but that savings, that money's going to go to savings first and foremost. So
I don't got no discipline.
Oh,
I need your help with that. I don't have none.
I know. Listen, I don't know where it came from. That's what Tamara was like. How are you just so disciplined? And I'm like, I don't know where it started. Yeah, maybe it's the athletic side of me.
I think that has something to do with it. Nisha played collegiate basketball. Yeah, so I think that actually has a lot to do with it.
6 a.m. track workouts.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Once you put your mind to it, that's it. So speaking of, you run your business with your wife Tamara. Kind of. Okay. I feel like I'm becoming an introvert randomly out of nowhere. Yeah. She's an extrovert. She wants to be on camera. She wants to be seen. I love doing all the behind the scenes stuff. So yes, she will go do all of the viewings and show the space and, you know, talk to all of the clients that are there. But she's been very supportive. That's very supportive since we met. Because I've had Creative Saints since 2018. Exactly. You know, we met during COVID, 2020. So yes. So it's always been so. I'm married, but I do a lot of this kind of stuff. My husband is here today, though. But how is that? What is that dynamic like? Like you all, because she has her own stuff going on. You have this. It's a lot. So how are you guys managing? Like, are you talking about work 24/7? Like when you go home and you eating dinner, are you talking about the business, or do you have very set boundaries where you're like, hey, I don't want to talk about that today. Hit me at 9 a.m. in the morning. Like, what is that balance for y'all?
We try to travel, and when we travel, we're not talking about work.
Nice.
So we probably take a trip once a quarter, twice a year, like out the country. Yeah. But Tamara is a workaholic. Let me tell you, I thought I had it together till I met her, and I'm just like, you go nonstop. I mean, she's a speech therapist by trade, so she's like a supervisor in the state of Washington. So everything is virtual.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then she's a real estate agent. Right. So she's always showing houses. She's always out. And, you know, she'll leave. I'm on the couch. She'll come back. I'm on the couch. And I'm like, but I was on my laptop today. And she was like, girl. I'm like,
what did you do?
I'm like, I'm like, man, you know, and she's like, and then when I find myself wanting to complain about work, she's like, but her favorite line is, you can always be a window scraper. And I'm like, a window scraper? I'm like, first of all, I wouldn't. I'm afraid of heights. But she's like, but they have a reason to complain about the job that they do. Why are you complaining about your job? And I'm like, you're right. So my whole aspect, like dynamic and aspect on a lot of the things that I do, I try to take those negatives and just turn them into positives before it even comes out of my mouth.
That's it.
And that's what she does. She never complains about anything. It's just, she's always finding a positive. Yeah. So I appreciate the fact that at least, you know, when we have these conversations, she'll say, well, how about you try to do this instead of that? Or, you know, if the clients that are giving you problems are the ones that are always just ordering 15 shirts, 20 shirts, won't you change your minimum to 50?
There you go.
Like, I'm like, oh, okay, now my minimum is 50.
There you go.
That's going to solve a lot of my problems because, you know, so yeah, so it's it's been easy. Like, both of us working from home a lot of the time. You know, I work at the Loft a lot, but she'll come up, we'll work. But we know when to turn it off. Okay. If I feel like at a point where I've heard enough about the Loft, about real estate, we know how to turn it off. And I'm a TV person. She's not. Okay. So it's like her way of, you know, coming to spending the day with me is closing her laptop at 10 p.m. and maybe watching TV with me for an hour.
Let's watch TV. No, I think a couple things like that. Having two brains, I say that a lot on the show, and that's I had an episode a couple weeks ago where one of the biggest mistakes that I've made in 5 years, and we're both approaching, I just hit 5 years, you're approaching 5 years in a couple, you're going to have a big party.
Yes, a block party.
I will be there. We did nothing. And that's fine, because whatever. But like, one of the biggest mistakes for me was not having a second brain, like a consistent second brain, right? So I've had an assistant, I've had an intern, but for the most part, it's all here. Yes. And, you know, great things don't happen in silos. No. You know, you need that other person. You need that other person to say, what did you think about this? Or that other person to say, that's not going to work. Or that other person to reel you in when you got to jump off the deep end and spend who knows what. So I value, I think that's amazing. And I would credit the success to that. Not all of it, right? Because it's something you created prior to, but just knowing there's that. And with her being a real estate agent, she just has a different, you know, she looks at things differently. I love it.
We at the first Black and Blooming event, we get in the car and I was like, I'm exhausted clearly. Yeah. And I'm like, it was such a great success. I'm thinking we're going to go home, have a couple of drinks, celebrate. She was like, okay, let's start playing the next one.
Come on.
I was like, oh, I don't even get a day off.
Can I
So the next morning she wakes up, she's like, so when's the next one? Wow. I was like, well, 5-year anniversary, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. Juneteenth. So let's talk about it. Black and Blooming, what is it? I wore my hoodie too, so we could be a little twins. This is not a Black and Blooming hoodie. I have to get one. Yes. Coachella also is next weekend. It is. So y'all. Yes. Whole nother story about that. But yeah, please share a whole nother story about that. Gotcha. What's Black and Blooming?
So Black and Blooming is my new one-day event that I host at the Loft. I try to, I'm going to try to do it quarterly. Okay. But it's just to kind of showcase Black-owned businesses originally in the area. Okay. But I feel like I want to expand. I want to bring artists in to kind of do something different every time that I host the event. But it's just a festival. I partner with 2 chefs in February. It's Black History Month. And they hosted a bottomless brunch portion in the downstairs space gallery. Right. And I had about 15 local Black-owned businesses and artists be able to showcase their work. Very cool. And so it's just basically just bringing our community together. Black culture, Black art, Black food, music. So I'm basically want to take that and just take it to another level for Juneteenth and just do this huge block party where, you know, maybe I'm thinking 35 to 40 vendors, having a stage. So yeah, it's still in the works. Wow. But it'll be here before we know it.
So I was able to go to the first one. Yes. And I went to just check out the venue for my son's party. My son was in the car asleep. The older one. He's not the baby, the older one. But it was such a vibe. Like I didn't want to leave. I had to because we had to come home. But it felt like Black. Yes. It was bloom. Like, it was that. It was absolutely that. Yeah. The food, the music. So are you going to like block off the streets? Like
I am. Okay. So I met with the city last week. Nice. They let me block it off last time for the sake of like parking because there's not a lot of parking in that area. But this time around, they're going to let me block it off and I'm going to be able to have vendors outside. So it'll be a little different with the, you know, possibly the stage outside, having a DJ outside. I got like, there's a group, the Grill Boys, they have this huge grill. They were at the grand opening. Okay. They'll have their grill out there. People can eat. So it's just a big block party, day party, you know, but being able to shop too. So I just want to be able to, you know, support a lot of the Black-owned businesses in the area. Absolutely.
I know. I think that's so cool. And I think just that conversation about talking to the city, that's another thing that we're not talking about when people are opening these spaces. Aside from having to have permits, aside from having to make sure you're in compliance, you really do need to have a relationship with your city, whatever municipality you're in. I think Hyattsville, where we are, is a great place to be. They have a ton of small business grants. the floral install. If you are familiar with Camp Space, when you ride outside, there's like all these pretty flowers. We got a grant from the city for that. So
yeah, they have a good facade.
Yeah, they do. Like, and I've gotten multiple grants from them, right? Like, tap into your local, to the cities. Like, know if you're open, especially if you're opening a brick and mortar, they want their businesses to succeed because that brings people to the city. Yeah. That's, that's money, that's income that's funneling through. Yeah. So yeah, if you have a brick and mortar and you haven't started to build those relationships with the city council people, the mayor, the small business, they all have small business departments, for lack of a better word. You should definitely be taking advantage of that. Don't be afraid. Like, you're bringing them value by having your business there. You could be anywhere. So Black and Blooming, is that June 9th?
That is June 24th.
June 24th.
June 25th.
June 25th.
Sunday.
Okay.
Sunday.
It's going to be on the weekend.
It's on Sunday, yeah.
What does self-care and just what brings you contentment? What brings you that space of peace and like...
Yes. That's a good question. Someone asked me that the other day. So I do play tennis now. Okay. I don't have the basketball stamina, nothing anymore. So I play tennis. Okay. I'm on a team in Montgomery County, DC, PG.
You're like playing competitive.
I'm playing competitive.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Like going to regionals and sectionals, and haven't been on a team yet that's gone to nationals, but I'm playing.
Nice.
So that's like my outlet. I try to play 2 or 3 times a week. I haven't been playing as much lately, but I know that my true calling, what I'm really passionate about, is basketball, is coaching. So a couple of months ago, my team, well, actually, we were AAU teammates back in Alabama growing up. Okay. But we played against each other in high school. But she DM'd me. She lives here. She was like, "Hey, Red." She's like, "I'm coaching a team right now, National Christian." She's like, I'm the assistant coach. We have 6 players. And I remember when you played on a team with only 5 players, and you guys were still winning. Y'all had a winning record. In my mind, I'm like, how did she remember? I don't even remember that. I was like, did I? And I was like, I did. I was like in the 8th grade. How do you remember that? So she's like, if you could just come out and just talk to the girls and just motivate them. Yeah. And I was a head coach in Chicago. Okay. At the school I was at for 3 years, and then I left there. Actually, I was coaching at the collegiate level first. I was a Division II coach in Chicago. That's why I moved there after college. I see. I took a job there. Gotcha. And then I left that world. It was just too much. I had no life. Yeah. I said, I need a little freedom. And I started coaching in Chicago, and then I moved here. And I tried it at Roosevelt when I was teaching there in DC. Couldn't do it. But it's that component that's been missing. Okay. And I was like, I got to get back in. I have to have a balance. Like, if I'm going to work, I have tennis, but that's more of the physical side.
Exactly.
That's me not want to go to the gym. Me not want to get on a treadmill.
Let me just work out on the court.
Yeah, let me just burn my calories this way. So it was the basketball aspect. So I ended up going to watch them play over Christmas break, and I couldn't get enough. I was like, all right, I'll be at practice Monday. So I started going to practice. I finished out the year with them. We only had 5 girls. Wow. It was a rough one. Okay. So I'm thinking about getting back in. Okay. It's just that the private school sector of like coaching, it's like being a college coach all over again. I mean, you have to recruit. I'm like, whoa, I have to recruit. Yeah. Like, this is what I was doing. Yeah. So we'll see what's next. But that's self-care for me.
It's giving Creative Saints AAU team.
Oh.
Just saying. Okay.
I can make the jerseys.
Right, you can make the jersey. You feel me? I can manage the Instagram page.
There we go. Okay. Listen, that sounds like good. Right here in Hyattsville.
I'm trying to tell you. Let's see what we can do. Okay. I can have RJ come and help my son, whatever.
My strength and conditioning coach.
Come on. Okay. I think we should make it happen. It's a lot of money in basketball.
It's a lot.
In Prince George's County.
It is. Yeah, I was like, National Christian, wow, like just being able to see this side of it.
Yeah, that's down the street from where I'm from. I would pass on Bach Road. That is literally where I'm from. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Tell our audience how they can connect with you, connect with the businesses, anything you want.
Okay, I am on Instagram, Creative Saints Loft. I attempted to start a TikTok. I'm not quite there yet. It's like I'm always one of the ones that remembers to do things after the moment's over. And I'm like, I forgot to film this. But Instagram, Facebook, all Creative Saints Loft. If you need any screen printing, The Incredible Designs on Instagram and Facebook as well. And if you are available, I will be releasing tickets for Black and Blooming on Eventbrite tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
Tomorrow. Okay. It's a free event. Just parking. It's valet parking, $15 to park. Just walk down the street.
Are you doing VIP this time too?
I am.
Okay.
So, I'm trying to figure that out.
Okay.
How I'm going to, we're expecting anywhere from 7 to 800 people rolling in and out. Yeah. So I need to figure out how I'm going to do that VIP. I am, for the first time, going to be looking for sponsors. Gotcha. I actually have my first sponsor. Nice. I'm going to be releasing that information this week. Once we finalize all the details. But she'll be flying in from out of town.
Wow.
To be a sponsor. So
yeah. I'm also thinking I guess if it's outside, I'm always thinking like, okay, I see this maybe even being bigger than Hyattsville can accommodate. So we'll see. We put it all out in the atmosphere.
I receive it.
Everything you need to know is in the show notes. You can link to everything to connect with Meshia, to connect with her businesses, to get your tickets to Black and Blooming. You don't need to be in the DMV to come. You can book your ticket, get your flight, little road trip.
Yeah.
I say do it. It's a vibe. I was at the last one. I totally enjoyed it. If you need screen printing, her business can handle it. If you need a beautiful space to host anything, do it with Creative Saints. Thank you, Meshia.
You're welcome.
This was
fun.
good. We finally got so this was supposed to happen a couple months ago.
I think in December.
Yeah. Was it my fault that I had to? Probably.
It's okay.
It's fine.
It worked out.
Yeah. It always works out.
Right?
Exactly.
So it's perfect.
Exactly. You all, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Shades of Content. Make sure that you rate and review the show. Share this episode with someone who wants to own a business, someone who is very interested in owning a brick and mortar space. Yes. And just someone who needs to be inspired by a bomb person doing great things on different levels, right? There's no limit to what you can do, literally. Any limits that you put in front of you are ones that you put in front of you. Nobody else is doing that. People can say you can't do, but you don't got to listen to that. You don't have to internalize any of it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So just keep going, keep pushing. Again, share the episode, rate and review. We will see you on Wednesday with a Shades of Content hack. And then we'll be back next Friday with a full episode. It's been great. I love you. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend.
Yeah.
All right, now, y'all, don't forget to connect with Shades of Content on Instagram at Shades of Content and with me, Patrice Camo, at Patrice Camo. And also be sure to rate this show, leave a review, and subscribe because that's actually the only way that we're going to grow. I'll see you next week.